for nannies in 6 months, and Gunho was ready to give up on finding someone his daughters wouldn't break or who wouldn't quit. Then he came home early and saw Phoebe and his girls on the floor, covered in nail polish and smiling, and everything in his carefully controlled world tilted sideways. You probably think you know where this is going, but trust me, you really don't. Subscribe now and stay with me because the next part is where things get seriously complicated. Gunho unlocked the penthouse door at 3 in the afternoon instead of midnight. The Beijing deal had collapsed faster than expected, which meant he was home 9 hours early. He expected silence, maybe the twins napping in their room. What he got instead was laughter, real laughter, the kind he hadn't heard in this apartment since his wife died 2 years ago. He stood in the entrance, briefcase still in hand, watching through the open living room doorway. His daughters, Mabel and Ariella, were on the floor with their nanny, Phoebe. They weren't just playing. They were alive. Mabel was braiding Phoebe's thick coiled hair, while Ariella painted her nails with that cheap polish from the convenience store. The nanny was telling them something in her accented Korean, stumbling over words, and the girls were finishing her sentences, all 3 of them giggling like old friends. No, no. The cat didn't just climb, he jumped. Like this. Ariella launched herself onto the couch, nearly knocking over a lamp. Gunho's chest did something strange. Tightened, maybe. Or opened up. He couldn't tell which was going on with him. Phoebe caught Ariella midair, steadying her with practiced ease. Careful, little one. Your father will think I'm teaching you to be wild. Daddy says we're already wild, Mabel said matter-of-factly, still working on the braid. He says we get it from Mama. The apartment went quiet for just a second. Gunho watched Phoebe's face change, soften into something tender. She touched Mabel's cheek. Then your mama must have been wonderful. She was. Ariella climbed into Phoebe's lap like it was the most natural thing in the world. But she's gone now. Daddy says she's watching us from somewhere pretty. Phoebe wrapped both arms around his daughter, and Gunho saw her blink fast, like she was fighting tears. I bet she is. And I bet she's smiling right now. He should have announced himself. Cleared his throat. Something. But he couldn't move. In 6 months, he'd hired and fired 4 nannies. The first one treated his girls like porcelain dolls. The second one spent more time on her phone than watching them. The third one quit after 1 week, said the girls were too much. The fourth one he'd fired himself when he came home to find Mabel crying because the woman had told her to stop asking so many questions. Then Phoebe arrived 3 months ago from Botswana, sent by an agency he'd almost given up on. She had exactly 1 reference, spoke Korean like she'd learned it from textbooks, and showed up in jeans and a faded jacket that had seen better days. He'd almost turned her away at the door. I know I don't look like much, she'd said, meeting his eyes directly. But I'm good with children. And I need this job. So just give me 1 week. If your daughters aren't happier, I'll leave without pay. He'd given her 3 days in his mind. She'd stayed 90. Now he watched her help Ariella with a puzzle while Mabel finished the braid, chattering about some boy at school who tried to pull her hair. Phoebe listened like it was the most important story she'd ever heard. What did you do? She asked Mabel. I told him my daddy would throw him in the Han River. Gunho almost smiled. Almost. Phoebe's eyes went wide. You didn't. I did. Mabel looked proud. He ran away. Mabel. Phoebe tried to sound stern but failed. You can't threaten people with your father. Why not? It works. Because. Phoebe seemed to struggle for the right words. Because you're smart enough to use your words instead. What did he do after you said that?
He apologized.
Then he shared his candy. There you go. You won. But next time, maybe just tell him no first. Ariella tugged on Phoebe's sleeve. Can we make those cookies again? The ones with chocolate. If your father says yes. I say yes. 3 heads whipped toward him. Mabel jumped up. Ariella scrambled off Phoebe's lap. But it was the nanny's face he couldn't stop looking at. She stood quickly, smoothing her shirt like she'd been caught doing something wrong. Mr. Park, I didn't hear you come in. I noticed. He set his briefcase down, and his daughters crashed into him, both talking at once. Daddy, you're early. Did you bring us anything? Phoebe taught us how to make flower crowns. Can we really make cookies? He let them hang off his arms, something loosening in his chest. One at a time. Yes, I'm early. No, I didn't bring anything because I didn't know I'd be early. Flower crowns sound interesting. And yes, cookies, but after dinner. They cheered and ran off toward the kitchen, already arguing about what kind to make. That left him alone with Phoebe, who was gathering up the puzzle pieces and nail polish like she couldn't quite look at him. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I know I'm not supposed to let them paint nails on the furniture, but the table was too high for Ariella and… It's fine. She finally looked up, surprised. It is? Gunho moved closer, not sure what he was doing. I heard them laughing from the hallway. That's the first time in 2 years. Something shifted in her expression. Understanding, maybe. They're good girls. They just needed someone to listen. For nannies before you couldn't figure that out. Maybe they weren't listening right. She smiled a little, and he realized for the first time that she had a small dimple on her left cheek. Your daughters are smart. They know when someone's just going through the motions. He should have said thank you. Should have told her she was doing a good job. Instead, he said, they talk about you even when you're not here. Her eyes widened. They do. Mabel told her teacher that her nanny is teaching her to be brave. Ariella told my mother that you make the best rice, even better than the chef we had. Phoebe laughed, and the sound did that thing to his chest again. Your mother must have loved that. She wants to meet you. The laughter died.
Oh,
I'm just the nanny. You're the person my daughters trust. He held her gaze. That makes you important. She looked away first, tucking a loose curl behind her ear. I should go check on them before they decide to make cookies without us. She moved past him toward the kitchen, and he caught the faintest scent of cocoa butter and something floral.
simple.
Nothing like the expensive perfumes his late wife used to wear, or the ones his mother still bathed in. Just Phoebe. In the kitchen, the girls had already pulled out flour and sugar, making a mess on the counter. Phoebe jumped in immediately, redirecting the chaos into something productive. Gunho leaned against the doorframe and watched her move through his kitchen like she belonged there, laughing at Ariella's jokes, studying Mabel's hand as she cracked an egg. His phone vibrated in his pocket. He ignored it. It vibrated again. And again. Finally, he pulled it out. His second-in-command, Takashi. We have a problem. The shipment from Taiwan was intercepted. The Park family name was mentioned. Someone talked. Gunho's jaw tightened. He typed back quickly. Handle it. I'm with my daughters. Boss, this is serious. They're asking questions. The wrong kind. I said handle it. He shoved the phone back in his pocket and looked up to find Phoebe watching him, a question in her eyes. He shook his head slightly.
Not now.
She nodded and turned back to the girls, but he saw her shoulders tense. She knew. Somehow, she knew his life wasn't normal. That his business trips weren't really business trips. That the men who came to the apartment sometimes wore guns under their jackets. She'd never asked and he'd never offered.
It was better that way.
Daddy, come help. Ariella waved him over, her hands covered in cookie dough. He crossed the kitchen and let his daughter smear chocolate on his expensive shirt. Phoebe handed him a spoon, their fingers brushing for just a second. The contact sent something electric up his arm, and from the way her breath caught, she felt it too. Thank you, he said quietly, just for her. For what? For staying. She met his eyes, and in them he saw something he hadn't seen in any woman's face in years. Not pity for the widower. Not fear of the dangerous man. Not even ambition or greed. Just warmth. Simple human warmth. They make it easy, she said softly. The kitchen timer went off, breaking the moment. Phoebe pulled away to check the oven, and Gunho let his daughters pull him into their chaos, trying to ignore how much he wanted to follow her instead. Later, after cookies and dinner and bedtime stories, he found Phoebe cleaning up the kitchen. She'd sent the regular staff home hours ago, insisting she could handle it. You don't have to do this, he said from the doorway. She turned, dish towel in hand. I know, but I like keeping busy. It's past 8. You should go home. I live here. She gestured vaguely toward the small room off the kitchen that served as the nanny's quarters. Remember?
He did.
He'd offered her the larger guest room upstairs, but she'd refused, said she didn't need much space. Now he wondered if she just wanted to stay close to the girls. How long have you been in Seoul? He asked, moving into the kitchen. Almost a year now. She dried the last dish.
Why?
Your Korean is getting better. She smiled. The girls are good teachers. Very patient when I mess up. Where did you learn it? University back home. I studied languages. She hung up the towel. Thought I might be a translator someday. Life had other plans. What plans? She hesitated, and he saw shadows cross her face. The kind that make you leave home and start over somewhere new. He understood that more than she knew. Family? Complicated. She leaned against the counter. My father wanted one life for me. I wanted another. We disagreed. I left. Do you regret it? Some days. Her honesty surprised him. But then your daughters asked me to braid their hair, or teach them a new word, and I remember why I came here. To build something that's mine. His phone buzzed again. He pulled it out, saw another message from Takashi. Boss, they found the leak. It's bad. You need to see this. Phoebe saw his expression change. You have to go. It wasn't a question. He nodded, already reaching for his jacket. I'll be back before morning. Be careful. She said it simply, like she had the right to worry about him. He stopped at the door. Phoebe? Yes. If anything happens, if anyone comes here who isn't family or staff, you take the girls to the panic room. Code is their birthday, Mabel 1st. Her face went pale. Mr. Park. Just promise me. She swallowed hard. I promise. He left before he could second-guess telling her. The panic room was a secret only his most trusted people knew about. His mother didn't even know the code. But something in his gut said Phoebe needed to know. That she'd protect his daughters with her life if it came to that. The thought should have scared him. Instead, it felt right. Gunho returned at dawn with blood on his knuckles and a decision made. The leak had been one of his oldest associates, someone he'd trusted for over a decade. The betrayal cut deep, but the cleanup had been efficient. Still, it meant changes. Security upgrades. New protocols. And someone watching his daughters every second. He wasn't there. He found Phoebe asleep on the couch, still in yesterday's clothes, a book about Korean grammar open on her chest. She'd waited up. Something warm spread through him at the realization. Phoebe. He touched her shoulder gently. She woke with a start, eyes unfocused for a moment before landing on him. You're back. Are you all right? He should have lied. Instead, he said, no, but I will be. She sat up, fully awake now, and he saw her notice his hands. The split knuckles he hadn't bothered to wrap. Without a word, she disappeared into the kitchen and came back with a first aid kit. Sit. She pointed at the chair. You don't have to.
Sit.
Please. He sat. She knelt in front of him and took his hand, dabbing at the cuts with antiseptic. Her touch was gentle, efficient, like she'd done this before. He watched her face, the concentration in her dark eyes, the way she bit her lower lip when she focused. Who taught you first aid? He asked. My mother. She was a nurse. Phoebe wrapped gauze around his knuckles. She said everyone should know how to patch people up because you never know when you'll need to save someone. Is she still nursing?
She passed.
5 years ago. No emotion in her voice, just fact. I'm sorry. Don't be. She lived well. Phoebe moved to his other hand. Taught me everything she knew before she left. How to heal wounds, how to stay calm in emergencies, how to love people even when they make terrible choices. He knew she wasn't just talking about her mother anymore. You think I make terrible choices? I think you do what you have to do. She tied off the gauze. But yes, probably terrible by most people's standards. Does that scare you? She finally looked up at him. Should it? Yes. Well, it doesn't. She stood, gathering the first aid supplies. You're a good father. You love your daughters. Everything else is just noise. Most people wouldn't see it that way. I'm not most people, Mr. Park. He caught her wrist before she could walk away.
Gunho.
Call me Gunho. She went very still. That wouldn't be appropriate. Neither is wrapping my hands at 5 in the morning. That's different. That's medical. Is it? He stood, still holding her wrist, close enough now to see the pulse jumping in her throat. Or is it because you were worried? Of course I was worried. She pulled free gently. Your daughters need you. If something happened to you, this isn't about my daughters. The air between them changed. Charged. Phoebe stepped back, putting distance between them. I should check on the girls. They're asleep. Then I should prepare breakfast. It's 5:30. Early breakfast. She was already moving toward the kitchen, practically fleeing. He let her go, but couldn't help smiling. She felt it too. Whatever this thing was growing between them, she felt it just as strongly as he did. The problem was, she was smart enough to run from it. Over the next few weeks, Gunho found excuses to come home early. Meetings that could be rescheduled. Phone calls that could happen from his home office. His associates noticed but said nothing. Even Takashi just raised an eyebrow when Gunho declined drinks after a successful negotiation. The nanny must be something special, his second said carefully. My daughters are special.
Right.
The daughters. Takashi didn't sound convinced. But it was true, at least partly. Mabel and Ariella were thriving under Phoebe's care. Their teacher called to say both girls were participating more in class, making friends, showing confidence they hadn't had before. His mother visited and actually smiled, declaring Phoebe a miracle worker before pulling him aside. She's good for them, his mother said in rapid Japanese, which Phoebe didn't speak. But be careful. Of what? Of mixing your worlds. That girl is innocent. What you do, it would destroy someone like her.
He knew she was right.
It didn't stop him from wanting. One evening, he came home to find the apartment dark except for lights from the balcony. He heard music, something African with drums and strings he didn't recognize. Following the sound, he found Phoebe teaching his daughters to dance. No, like this, feel the rhythm in your feet first, then let it move up. She demonstrated, her body flowing with the music in a way that made his mouth go dry. Mabel and Ariella tried to copy her, laughing when they stumbled. Phoebe caught Ariella before she fell, spinning her in a circle instead. The girl's delighted shriek echoed across the balcony. Again. Again. My turn. Mabel jumped up and down. Phoebe noticed him in the doorway. Her dancing stopped abruptly, suddenly self-conscious. Mr. Park. I didn't realize you were home. Don't stop because of me. He stepped onto the balcony. What is this? Music from home. I was telling the girls about traditional dances, and they wanted to learn. She tucked a curl behind her ear, nervous. I should have asked permission. Daddy, watch. Mabel grabbed his hand. Phoebe's teaching us to dance like her mother taught her. His daughter pulled him further onto the balcony, and before he could protest, Phoebe was showing him the steps. Her hands on his arms, adjusting his posture. Her voice patient as she counted the rhythm. Her laughter when he deliberately stumbled just to see her smile. You're doing it wrong on purpose, she accused. Prove it. She did, taking his hands and moving them through the steps slowly. The girls watched, giggling, but Gunho barely heard them. All his focus was on the woman in front of him. The way she moved, the warmth of her skin against his, the concentration on her face. There, she said softly. You've got it. Do I? She met his eyes, and whatever she saw there made her breath catch. The music changed to something slower, more intimate, and neither of them moved. Just stood there on the balcony with his daughters dancing around them, caught in a moment that felt bigger than it should. Ariella crashed into Phoebe's legs, breaking the spell. Can we have ice cream now? It's almost bedtime, Phoebe said, but her voice was shaky. Please. Mabel joined in the begging. Just a little? Gunho made the decision for her. Ice cream. Then bed. No arguments. The girls cheered and ran inside. Phoebe started to follow, but he caught her hand.
Thank you, he said.
For what? Teaching them to dance. For reminding me what joy looks like. She stared at him for a long moment, something vulnerable crossing her face. That's not my job. Maybe it should be. She pulled her hand away slowly. Don't. Please don't. Don't what? Look at me like that. Like I'm more than the nanny. You are more.
No.
She shook her head. I can't be. Your daughters need stability, not confusion. And I need this job. Phoebe. I'm going to check on the girls. She disappeared inside before he could stop her. He stood on the balcony alone, her music still playing from the speaker, and wondered when exactly he'd started falling for his daughter's nanny. And what the hell he was supposed to do about it. The next morning, his world tilted again. Takashi called with news that one of their rival families was asking questions about Gunho's personal life, about the African woman living in his home, about whether she was a weakness they could exploit. I'll increase security, Takashi said. And maybe the nanny should go. Just temporarily, until this blows over.
No.
Boss. I said no. You increase security. Put a team on her. But she stays. You're making this personal. It was always personal. She takes care of my daughters. Takashi sighed. And what do you take care of? Gunho ended the call without answering because he didn't have one. The truth was he was taking care of nothing. He was making everything worse. Drawing attention to Phoebe. Putting her in danger just by wanting her near. He should fire her. Send her away. Give her enough money to start over somewhere safe. Instead, he doubled her salary and hired 3 bodyguards to watch the apartment. Phoebe noticed immediately. Mr. Park, why are there men following me to the market? Security measures. For the nanny? For my household. She didn't believe him, but she didn't push. Just added it to the list of things they didn't talk about, along with the way he looked at her, and the way she looked back when she thought he wasn't watching. The tension built for weeks. Gunho threw himself into work, taking meetings he could have delegated, staying away from the apartment until late. When he came home, Phoebe made herself scarce, leaving him notes about the girls' day instead of reporting in person. Mabel got an A on her science project. Ariella finally finished that puzzle. Both are asleep. There's dinner in the fridge.
K.
He saved every note. Then came the night everything changed. Gunho was in Shanghai closing a weapons deal when Takashi called at midnight. Someone tried to grab Phoebe. His blood turned to ice.
What?
She was coming back from the store. 3 men. Our guys intervened, but boss, they knew her schedule. They were waiting. Is she hurt? Shaken up, but fine. The girls don't know. She told them the bodyguards were just being careful. Gunho was already moving, grabbing his coat. I'm coming back. Tonight. Boss, the deal. Can wait. Have the plane ready in 20 minutes. He made it home in 5 hours instead of the usual 8. Burst through the apartment door at dawn to find Phoebe sitting in the kitchen, hands wrapped around a cup of tea she wasn't drinking. She looked up when he entered, and the fear in her eyes nearly broke him. You came back, she whispered. Of course I came back. He crossed to her in 3 strides. Are you hurt? No, the guards, they stopped it before anything happened. She set the cup down with shaking hands. I'm sorry. I should have been more careful. This isn't your fault. Then whose fault is it? She stood abruptly. I'm the nanny. I take care of your daughters. That's all I'm supposed to be. But those men, they knew my name. They said someone wanted to send you a message. Through me. He wanted to pull her into his arms, but couldn't. I'll handle it.
How?
By sending more guards? By making me a prisoner in this apartment. If that's what it takes to keep you safe. This isn't safe. Her voice rose. Nothing about this is safe. I knew your life was complicated, but I didn't think. She stopped, shaking her head. I need to leave. The words hit him like a bullet.
No.
Mr. Park. Gunho. And no, you're not leaving. I have to. For the girls. If someone's targeting me to get to you, then staying here puts them in danger. You leaving puts them in more danger. They need you. They need their father. She met his eyes. And you need to fix whatever's happening in your world before it destroys theirs. She was right.
He knew she was right.
But the thought of her walking out that door made him desperate in a way he hadn't felt since his wife died. 1 week, he said. What? Give me 1 week to fix this. To make sure you're safe. Then, if you still want to leave. He couldn't finish the sentence. Phoebe studied his face for a long moment. And if I stay? If I give you this week and you make it safe, what then? Then you stay. With the girls. Just with the girls? The question hung between them, loaded with everything they hadn't said. Gunho took a step closer, close enough to see the gold flecks in her dark eyes. I don't know, he admitted. I don't know what happens then. But I know I can't lose you. She closed her eyes. This is a terrible idea. Probably. You're dangerous. Yes. And I'm still just the nanny. You are never just anything. She opened her eyes, and he saw the exact moment she decided to stay. Relief flooded through him so strongly he had to grip the counter to stay steady. 1 week, she said firmly. You fix this. You make it safe. Or I walk away, and you don't try to stop me.
Deal.
He held out his hand. She took it, and that electric current ran between them again, stronger this time. Neither of them pulled away. From down the hall came a sleepy voice. Phoebe, is Daddy home? They jumped apart like guilty teenagers. Phoebe composed herself first, smoothing her shirt. Yes, sweetie. He came home early. Want to come say good morning? Ariella appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. She saw Gunho and ran straight to him, and he caught her up in his arms, burying his face in her hair. You're home early again, she mumbled against a shoulder. Couldn't stay away from my favorite girls. Mabel appeared next, more alert. She looked between her father and Phoebe with the two knowing eyes of a smart 7-year-old. Did something happen? Nothing you need to worry about, Gunho assured her. But Mabel kept staring at Phoebe, who was studiously avoiding looking at either of them. Phoebe looked sad. I'm not sad, Phoebe said quickly. Just tired. It's very early. Then why are you in the kitchen if you're tired? Good question. Phoebe scrambled for an answer. I was making tea. You don't drink tea this early. You always say it wakes you up too much. Gunho almost smiled at his daughter catching Phoebe in the lie. Almost, because the situation was still too raw, too dangerous. Your nanny had a long night, he said. Why don't we let her rest and I'll make everyone breakfast? Both girls' eyes went wide. You're making breakfast? Is that so strange? Yes, they said in unison. Phoebe laughed despite herself, and the sound eased some of the tension. I'll help. Before you burn down the kitchen. They cooked together while the girls set the table, an oddly domestic scene that felt both completely natural and entirely surreal. Gunho kept catching himself watching Phoebe move through his kitchen, the way she hummed while she worked, how she knew exactly where everything was after only 3 months. 3 months. That's all it had been. It felt like years. After breakfast, he sent the girls to get dressed and pulled Phoebe aside. I meant what I said. 1 week. I know. And I'm not letting anyone hurt you. She touched his bandaged hand gently. Just don't hurt yourself in the process. He wanted to promise he wouldn't, but they both knew he couldn't guarantee that. So instead he said, take the girls to my mother's today. Stay there until I call. Your mother's? It's the most secure place besides here. And if anyone tries anything, she has her own security team. He saw her hesitation. Please. Just for today. Phoebe nodded slowly. Okay. But Gunho. His name on her lips did things to him. Yes. Whatever you're about to do, come back from it. It wasn't quite be safe, and it wasn't quite I'll miss you, but it was something in between. Something that gave him hope. I will, he promised. Then he kissed her forehead before he could stop himself, grabbed his keys, and left before she could see how much walking away from her cost him. Gunho's mother lived in a traditional house in Buckshan, all wooden beams and paper screens that hid reinforced steel and bulletproof glass. She opened the door herself, took one look at Phoebe and the twins, and ushered them inside without questions. You must be the miracle worker, she said in perfect English, surprising Phoebe. I'm Noel, Gunho's mother. I'm Phoebe. I'm sorry to impose. Nonsense. I've been wanting to meet you properly. Noel smiled at the girls. And these two can show you my garden while I make tea. Real tea, not that instant stuff. Mabel and Ariella dragged Phoebe outside before she could protest. The garden was stunning, all carefully placed stones and flowering trees. The girls ran ahead to a koi pond, pointing out fish. Your son asked me to stay here today, Phoebe said when Noel joined her with tea. I know, he called. Noel handed her a cup. He's worried about you. He's worried about his daughters. Those two. Noel sipped her tea, studying Phoebe over the rim. But mostly you. I've known my son for 38 years. He's never canceled a business deal to rush home before. Phoebe felt her cheeks warm. There was a security issue. There's always a security issue. That's what staff is for. Noel set down her cup. Tell me, are you in love with my son? The question was so direct Phoebe choked on her tea. What?
No.
I'm the nanny. That's not an answer. It's the only answer that matters. Noel laughed, not unkindly. You sound like me 20 years ago. I was a translator at one of his father's business meetings. Very proper. Very professional. Very much trying not to notice how handsome he was. That's different. Is it? You work for my son. You care for his children. You tell yourself it's just a job, but you're here on your day off because he asked, and you said yes without hesitation. Phoebe looked away, watching the girls play. He's my employer. And he's complicated. Complicated is generous. Dangerous is more accurate. Noel's voice softened. But also loyal. And protective. And capable of great love when he allows himself to feel it. Mrs. Park.
Noel.
And I'm not telling you to love him. I'm telling you to be careful. His world has already touched you once. The men who followed you yesterday? That's just the beginning. Phoebe's hands tightened on her cup. He said he'd fix it.
He will.
He always does. But fix doesn't mean safe. Not in this life. Noel paused. I lost my husband to this world. I won't lose my son. And I won't watch him lose someone else he cares about because he was too proud to let them go. Are you asking me to leave? I'm asking you to think. Really think. Can you love a man who comes home with blood on his hands? Can you raise his daughters knowing where that money comes from? Can you live with the guards and the secrets and the constant fear? Phoebe didn't have an answer. She watched Mabel help Ariella catch a butterfly, both girls laughing in the sunlight. They need me. They do. But they needed their mother too, and she still died. Noel's voice was gentle but firm. Cancer, not violence. But death is death. And grief is grief. Can you promise them you'll stay? That you won't leave them like she did? No one can promise that.
Exactly.
So before you let this go further, before you let my son fall any harder, decide if you're willing to try. Phoebe spent the rest of the day with that question rattling around her head. She played with the girls, helped Noel prepare lunch, pretended everything was normal. But normal was gone. Had been gone since she'd felt Gunho's hands on hers during that dance lesson. Since she'd rapped his bloody knuckles without asking what happened. Since she'd realized that somewhere between making cookies and braiding hair, she'd started caring about more than just his daughters. Her phone buzzed around dinner time. A message from Gunho. It's handled. Coming to get you. Noel read her face and smiled knowingly. That look right there? That's your answer. When Gunho arrived an hour later, Phoebe saw him before he saw her. He was talking to his mother in the entryway, and even from across the room, she could see the exhaustion in his shoulders, the tension in his jaw. Then he looked up, found her, and everything in his expression softened. Ready to go home? He asked. Home. Not back to the apartment, or back to work. Home. She nodded, and they gathered the girls. In the car, Mabel and Ariella fell asleep within minutes, worn out from playing. Gunho drove with one hand, the other resting on the center console. Phoebe stared at it, at the fresh bandages she could see under his sleeve. Did you fix it? She asked quietly. Yes. Are you hurt? Nothing that won't heal. Gunho. The family that tried to grab you, they won't be a problem anymore. His voice was flat, emotionless. Neither will anyone else who thinks they can use you to get to me. What did you do? What I had to. She knew she shouldn't ask for details. Didn't want them, really. But the not knowing was somehow worse. Did anyone? No one died, if that's what you're asking. But they'll think twice before touching what's mine. What's mine? The possessiveness should have bothered her. Instead, it sent warmth through her chest. They reached the apartment building, and Gunho carried Ariella while Phoebe guided a sleepy Mabel. The girls were in bed within minutes, too tired to protest. When Phoebe came back to the living room, she found Gunho standing by the window, staring out at the city. Your week isn't up yet, she said.
He turned. I know.
But I wanted you to know it's safe now. If you want to leave, I won't stop you. You promised me a week. I did. But you shouldn't have to wait if you've already decided. Phoebe crossed the room slowly, stopping a few feet away from him. What if I haven't decided? Something flickered in his eyes. Hope, maybe. Then you have 4 more days. And if I stay? After the week. Then I'll probably make a lot of mistakes trying to figure out what happens next. She almost smiled. That's honest. I'm trying to be. With you, at least. He moved closer. Phoebe, I can't promise you safety. Can't promise normal. Can't even promise I won't come home with blood on my hands again. I know, but I can promise I'll protect you. You and my daughters. With everything I have. That might not be enough. I know that too. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and tucked a curl behind her ear. But I'm asking you to stay anyway. Because my daughters need you. And because I need you. Her breath caught. Gunho. You don't have to say anything.
Just think about it.
For 4 more days. But she was done thinking. Had been since his mother asked if she could live with the secrets and the fear. The answer was simple, really. If it meant staying with Mabel and Ariella, with him, she could live with almost anything. I'll stay, she said. His hand froze on her cheek. You will? Not because you asked, and not because I'm afraid to leave. She met his eyes. Because somewhere between cookies and first aid and teaching your daughters to dance, I stopped wanting to be anywhere else. The kiss happened before either of them could overthink it. Soft at first, questioning, like he was giving her one last chance to change her mind. When she didn't, when she leaned in instead, it deepened into something that made her forget every rational reason this was a terrible idea. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Gunho rested his forehead against hers. We should probably talk about this. Probably. Set some rules. Figure out boundaries. Sound smart. Neither of them moved. Phoebe? I'm going to kiss you again. Okay. This time was different.
Slower. Deeper.
Like he was memorizing her. Like she was something precious he was afraid to break. When his hands slid to her waist, pulling her closer, she went without hesitation. A door creaked down the hallway. They jumped apart just as Ariella appeared, rubbing her eyes. I had a bad dream, she mumbled. Phoebe was across the room in seconds, all composure. Come on, sweetie. Let's get you back to bed. She scooped up the little girl, but not before catching Gunho's eye. The look they shared said everything words couldn't. Later. We'll finish this later. But later turned into days of stolen moments. Hands brushing when passing dishes. Long looks across the dinner table. Gunho finding excuses to be in the kitchen when Phoebe cooked. Phoebe staying up late to wrap his hands after bad days, their conversations stretching into hours. The girls noticed something was different, but couldn't name what. They just knew their father smiled more, laughed easier, came home earlier. Phoebe sang while cooking, wore brighter colors, stopped flinching when the bodyguards followed her to the market. On day 5 of the week that was supposed to be about safety, Gunho came home with flowers. Not expensive roses from a fancy shop, but wildflowers he'd clearly picked himself from somewhere. They reminded me of you, he said, almost shy. Simple, but beautiful. Phoebe took them with shaking hands. We can't. Can't what?
This.
Whatever this is. We need to talk about it. We've been talking for days. No, we've been dancing around it, pretending we can just ignore. He kissed her quiet, right there in the entryway where anyone could see. I don't want to ignore it, he firmly uttered. I want to see where it goes. And the girls? Will be fine. They already love you. And your work is separate. Completely separate. I'll never let it touch you again. She wanted to believe him.
God, she wanted to.
You can't control everything, Gunho. Watch me. It should have sounded arrogant. Instead, it sounded like a promise. Over the next few weeks, they found their rhythm. Gunho kept his word about separating his worlds, taking all dangerous meetings away from the apartment, never discussing business where the girls or Phoebe could hear. She kept being the nanny during the day, professional and focused. But at night, after the twins were asleep, they'd sit on the balcony and talk about everything except his work. She told him about growing up in Botswana, about her mother's garden and her father's disappointment when she chose languages over medicine. He told her about losing his wife, how he'd been empty for so long he forgot what feeling alive was like. Until you, he said one night, playing with her fingers. That's a lot of pressure. Is it too much? She considered. Ask me in another week. He laughed, and the sound made her heart do something complicated. This man who terrified business rivals and commanded loyalty through fear laughed like a kid when she teased him. Then came the night that changed everything again. Gunho had a meeting he couldn't avoid, some visiting dignitary from China who insisted on FaceTime. He promised to be back by 10. At midnight, Phoebe's phone rang. It's Takashi, the voice said without preamble. There's been an accident. The boss is in the hospital. Her world tilted. How bad? Bad enough. Car crash. The other driver ran a red light. He paused. It might not have been an accident. Phoebe was moving before she thought, grabbing her jacket. Which hospital? You can't come. It's not safe. Which hospital, Takashi? He sighed and told her. She called Noel to watch the girls, made up a story about a friend in trouble, and was in a cab within 10 minutes. She knew it was reckless, knew she was probably walking into danger, but she didn't care. Gunho was hurt, and nothing else mattered. The hospital was controlled chaos. Takashi met her at the entrance, looking grim. He's in surgery. 3 broken ribs, concussion, possible internal bleeding. Phoebe's legs went weak. Can I see him? Not yet. And you shouldn't be here. If whoever caused the crash finds out you came. I don't care.
He will.
When he wakes up and finds out you put yourself at risk. Then he can yell at me himself. She sat down in the waiting room. I'm not leaving. Takashi studied her for a long moment, then nodded. I'll post guards. But if anything seems wrong, you run. Promise me. I promise. She waited for 6 hours. Watched dawn break through the windows. Drank terrible vending machine coffee. Prayed to gods she hadn't talked to since her mother died. Please let him be okay. When the surgeon finally emerged, Phoebe stood so fast she got dizzy. He'll live. The surgery went well. He's stable but unconscious. Should wake up in a few hours. Relief made her collapse back into the chair. Takashi caught her elbow, steadying her. You can see him, the surgeon added. 5 minutes. She followed a nurse to the ICU, and the sight of Gunho hooked up to machines, bruised and bandaged, broke something inside her. She'd seen him dangerous and angry, seen him gentle with his daughters, seen him looking at her like she was the only woman in the world. But she'd never seen him vulnerable. Phoebe took his hand carefully, mindful of the 4. You promised to be careful, she whispered. You promised to come back. His fingers twitched. Then his eyes opened, unfocused at first, then finding her face. Phoebe? His voice was rough. Why are you, the girls, are safe with your mother? I'm here. You shouldn't be. It's not safe. Nothing about loving you is safe. The words were out before she could stop them. But I'm here anyway. His eyes widened. You what? I love you. In case that wasn't obvious. She wiped at her eyes, frustrated by the tears. So, you need to get better. Because I didn't stay in this insane situation just to lose you now. Gunho tried to sit up and winced. She pushed him gently back down. Don't move. You have broken ribs, and probably a dozen other things. Phoebe.
No.
You don't get to argue. You're hurt, and I'm furious, and I love you, and you're going to rest. He stared at her for a moment, then started laughing. Then stopped because it hurt. You love me. Apparently, I'm an idiot. The most beautiful idiot I've ever met. Gunho. I love you too. Have for weeks. Maybe longer. He squeezed her hand. I was just waiting for the right moment to tell you. This is not the right moment. You're in a hospital bed. It's perfect. You can't run away. She wanted to laugh and cry at the same time. I'm not running. I told you I'd stay. Even though I'm apparently terrible at staying safe? Even though... She leaned down carefully, kissed his forehead. But you're going to work on that part. For the girls. For me. Yes, ma'am. A nurse appeared in the doorway. Time's up. He needs to rest. Phoebe started to pull away, but Gunho held on to her hand.
Wait.
Takashi. His second appeared from somewhere.
Boss.
The crash. Was it them? We're investigating. But probably. Gunho's face hardened despite the pain. Then we end this.
Today.
I want everyone who might have been involved found and dealt with. Boss, you can't. I said dealt with. Not killed. I want them scared enough to never touch my family again. His eyes found Phoebe's. All of my family. Takashi nodded and disappeared. The nurse cleared her throat impatiently. Phoebe squeezed Gunho's hand once more. I'll come back later. After you've rested. Bring the girls? Maybe tomorrow. When you look less like you lost a fight with a truck. He smiled despite the pain. I love you. I know. Now rest. She left before she started crying again, made it to the elevator before the emotions overwhelmed her. Takashi found her there, handed her a tissue without comment. He really loves you, he said. I've never seen him like this. Not even with his wife. That doesn't make me feel better. It should. Because it means he'll do whatever it takes to keep you safe. Even if it means changing everything about how he operates. Takashi pressed the elevator button. The boss, he's always been careful. Strategic. But caring about you makes him reckless in a different way. Makes him want to protect instead of control. Is that good or bad? Honestly,
I don't know yet.
But I know he's happier than he's been in years. And his daughters are thriving. So maybe it's what he needed. The elevator arrived. Phoebe stepped inside, then turned back. Takashi? Find who did this. But don't tell Gunho if they're dead. He doesn't need more blood on his conscience. You really do love him. Unfortunately, she went back to the apartment, paid Noel, checked on the sleeping girls, and collapsed onto the couch. Her phone buzzed with a message from Gunho. Can't sleep without you here. She smiled despite her exhaustion and typed back. You're supposed to be resting. I am. Resting and thinking about you. That's not restful.
No.
But it's better than not thinking about you. She fell asleep with her phone in her hand, his words on the screen, and woke up to Mabel shaking her shoulder. Phoebe, where's Daddy? She sat up, groggy. He had to stay at the office last night. He'll be home soon. But you're sleeping on the couch. And you're still wearing yesterday's clothes. Mabel's two smart eyes narrowed. Something happened. There was no point lying to a 7-year-old who noticed everything. Your dad had a small accident. He's okay, but he had to stay in the hospital overnight. Ariella appeared, already crying. Daddy's hurt.
He's fine.
I promise. Just some bruises. He'll probably come home later today. Can we see him? Phoebe hesitated. Maybe later. Let him rest this morning first. But Gunho had other plans. He checked himself out against medical advice at noon and came home to find his daughters waiting by the door. They crashed into him carefully, and Phoebe watched from the kitchen doorway as he held them close despite the obvious pain. "I'm okay," he promised them. "Just a little banged up." "Phoebe said you had an accident," Mabel said suspiciously. "I did. Someone wasn't paying attention at a red light." "But you're really okay?" "Really." He caught Phoebe's eye over their heads. "Thanks to good doctors, and even better motivation to get home." The twins hovered over Gunho for the next week like worried nurses, bringing him water and extra pillows, drawing pictures to cheer him up. Phoebe watched him try to hide how much the attention overwhelmed him in the best way. This man who commanded empires could barely handle his 7-year-old daughters fussing over him. "You need to rest," Ariella insisted for the 100th time, pushing him back onto the couch when he tried to get up. "I've been resting for 3 days. I need to move." "The doctor said bed rest," Mabel added, hands on her hips in a perfect imitation of Phoebe's stern look. Gunho caught Phoebe's eye across the room. "A little help here?" "Sorry, they're right. Doctor's orders." She tried not to smile at his frustration. "Traitor." "That's me. The nanny who actually listens to medical professionals." The girls giggled and ran off to get more supplies for their patient, leaving them alone. Gunho patted the couch beside him. "Come here. The girls will be back in 30 seconds. Then we have 30 seconds. She crossed to him, let him pull her down beside him. His arm went around her shoulders, and she carefully avoided his bruised ribs. "Thank you," he whispered in a low tone. "For what?" "For being here. For not running when you saw how bad it could get." "I told you, I wasn't running." "I know. But seeing it and living it are different things." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "And you're still here. Where else would I be?" Before he could answer, the girls came thundering back with blankets and books. Phoebe slipped away to start dinner, leaving them to their pile of children and stories. Later, after the twins were asleep, she found Gunho in his office despite her orders to rest. "You're not supposed to be working," she said from the doorway. "I'm not working. I'm planning." He closed his laptop. "Come in." "Close the door." She did, suddenly nervous. "Is everything okay?" "That depends. How do you feel about moving?" Her stomach dropped. "You're sending me away?" "What?" "No." He stood too quickly, winced, sat back down. "The opposite. I want you closer. Permanently. I live in the apartment already. In the nanny's room. I'm talking about upstairs. With me." The implication made her dizzy. Gunho, the girls, would be thrilled. "They already ask why you don't have a bigger room. Why you don't eat breakfast with us every morning like family. That's different from me sleeping in your room." "Is it? We're together. We love each other. Why keep pretending otherwise?" Because it was safer to pretend, Phoebe thought. Safer to keep some distance between Nanny and something more. But looking at him now, bruised and stubborn and completely serious, she couldn't remember why safety mattered. "What would we tell people?" she asked. "The truth. That you're important to me. To all of us. Your associates. Already know. Takashi's been teasing me for weeks." He reached for her hand. "I'm not asking you to marry me. Not yet. I'm just asking you to stop sleeping in a room the size of a closet and move into mine." "Not yet." She focused on that part. He smiled. "Eventually if you want, but one thing at a time." "You're serious?" "Completely. I want to wake up next to you. Want to fall asleep holding you. Want my daughters to see what a real partnership looks like." Phoebe thought about Noel's warning, about blood and secrets and danger. Then she thought about Gunho reading bedtime stories with Mabel in his lap. About him teaching Ariella to tie her shoes with infinite patience. About the way he looked at her like she was the answer to questions he hadn't known to ask. "Okay," she said. "Okay. I'll move upstairs. But slowly. Let the girls adjust. They'll adjust in about 5 minutes." He was right. When they told Mabel and Ariella over breakfast the next morning that Phoebe would be moving to a bigger room upstairs, both girls cheered. "Does this mean you're staying forever?" Ariella asked. Phoebe glanced at Gunho, who was watching her with barely concealed hope. "It means I'm staying for as long as you want me." "So forever," Mabel said matter-of-factly. Because we're never not going to want you. Something in Phoebe's chest cracked open. Forever sounds good. Moving her things took all of an hour because she didn't have much. Gunho insisted on buying her new clothes, new furniture, anything she wanted. She refused everything except a bookshelf for the novels she'd been collecting. I don't need your money, she said firmly.
I know.
But I want to give you things. Then give me time.
Give me honesty. Give me you.
He pulled her close, careful of his healing ribs. You already have all of that. Then I'm rich enough. They fell into a new rhythm over the following weeks. Gunho healed slowly, frustrating himself by being unable to do simple things. Phoebe learned to anticipate his moods, knowing when to push him to rest and when to let him feel useful. The girls adjusted to the new arrangement with the ease of children, treating it like Phoebe had simply moved to a better room. But the outside world noticed. Gunho's associates whispered about the African nanny who'd captured their boss's attention. His rivals wondered if she was a weakness they could exploit. And somewhere in the shadows, someone was still angry about whatever Gunho had done to protect her. The first threat came via email. Takashi brought it to Gunho's attention quietly, not wanting to alarm anyone. But Gunho told Phoebe immediately, keeping his promise of honesty. They want to hurt you to hurt me, he said bluntly. It's vague but serious enough to take seriously. What do? We increase security. We stay alert. And we don't let them control our lives. That's it? We just keep going? What else can we do? Hide forever? Let them win. He took her hands. I won't live in fear. And I won't let you live that way either. What if something happens to the girls? It won't. I have a team watching them every second they're not with us. The school has been briefed. My mother knows to be alert. We're as safe as we can be. It wasn't enough reassurance, but it was what they had. Phoebe threw herself into normal routines, refusing to let threats disrupt the life they were building. She took the girls to the park with bodyguards trailing at a distance. She went to school events with Gunho, his hand on her back, claiming her publicly. She hosted his mother for tea and endured Noel's knowing looks. You're good for him, Noel said one afternoon while the girls played. I was wrong to warn you away. You were being protective. I was being scared of losing another person I love to this life. She sipped her tea. But watching you two together, you make him better.
Softer.
More human. He was always human. Was he? I'm not sure I knew that man anymore after my daughter-in-law died. He became so hard, so cold. Then you arrived with your terrible Korean and your bright smile, and suddenly he remembered how to laugh. Phoebe felt tears prick her eyes. I'm still terrified most days. Good. Fear keeps you smart. Noel patted her hand. Just don't let it keep you from living. That night, Phoebe lay in Gunho's arms, listening to his steady heartbeat, and tried to believe everything would be okay. His fingers traced patterns on her shoulder, absent and soothing. What are you thinking about? He asked. How different my life is from a year ago. How I never imagined ending up here. Regrets. Not one. Just wonder. At how fast everything changed. Too fast. She propped herself up to look at him.
No.
Just fast enough to scare me sometimes. I scare you. The situation scares me. You make me feel safe. He pulled her back down, kissed the top of her head.
Good.
Because you are safe. I promise you that. She wanted to believe him. Tried to believe him. But the universe had other plans. The second threat came during Mabel's school play. They were sitting in the auditorium watching the girls perform when Gunho's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and Phoebe saw his face change. What's wrong? She whispered. Nothing. Just work. But he stood up, motioned for Takashi, who was sitting 2 rows back. They had a whispered conversation that made both men's expressions go dark. When Gunho sat back down, he took Phoebe's hand and held it tight enough to hurt. Tell me, she said quietly. Later. Let's watch the girls first. So she sat through the rest of the play with dread curling in her stomach, applauding mechanically when Mabel and Ariella took their bows. Afterward, while the girls ran off with classmates, Gunho pulled her aside. Someone sent photos, he said without preamble. Photos of what?
Of you.
With the girls. At the park yesterday. With crosshairs drawn on all three of you. The world tilted. Phoebe grabbed his arm to steady herself. They were watching us? And we didn't see them. Which means they're professional. His jaw was tight. I'm pulling the girls from school. We're going to my house outside the city until this is resolved. You can't just uproot their lives. I can and I will. Their safety isn't negotiable. Gunho. This isn't up for debate, Phoebe. Someone is threatening my children. And you. We're leaving tonight. She wanted to argue but couldn't. Not when she remembered those crosshairs. Not when she thought about someone watching them, planning violence. Okay. What do we tell the girls? The truth. That we're going on an unexpected vacation. They're too smart for that. I know. But it's all I have right now. They collected Mabel and Ariella, who were still hyped up from the play, and drove straight to the penthouse. Gunho had staff packing bags before they even arrived. The girls caught on quickly that something was wrong. Why are we leaving? Mabel asked suspiciously. Just a trip, Gunho said, too casually. Thought we could use some family time. In the middle of the school week? Why not? You're ahead in all your classes anyway. Ariella tugged on Phoebe's sleeve. Are we in trouble? No, baby. Your dad just wants us all together for a bit. Because of the bad people? Phoebe's heart stopped. What bad people? The ones Daddy works with sometimes. The ones who make him come home tired and worried. Ariella said it so simply, like she'd always known. Are they trying to hurt us? Gunho crouched down to her level. I won't let anyone hurt you. Ever. That's why we're going somewhere safe. Just for a little while. Is Phoebe coming? Of course. Then okay. Ariella hugged him. As long as we're all together. Mabel was less convinced, but eventually agreed. They drove for 2 hours to a house Phoebe had never seen, hidden in the mountains with security that rivaled a military compound. The girls were asleep within an hour of arriving, exhausted from the day. Gunho made calls while Phoebe unpacked. She could hear him through the walls, his voice cold and commanding. When he finally came to bed, she was sitting by the window, watching guards patrol the perimeter. How long? She asked. However long it takes. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. He sat beside her. Takashi is tracking down who sent the photos. We'll find them. And then what? Then we make sure they never threaten you again. She turned to look at him. I don't want you to kill anyone for me. I won't. Not unless I have to. Gunho. I know what you're asking. And I hear you. But if it comes down to their life or yours. He touched her face. There's no choice. It's you. It'll always be you. She closed her eyes, overwhelmed by the weight of his love and the violence it might require. This isn't the life I imagined. I know. And if you want out. I don't. She opened her eyes. That's what scares me. I should want out. Should be packing my things and running back to Botswana. But I don't. I want to stay. Even with the danger. Even with everything. Why? Because I love you.
Because those girls need me.
Because somewhere in this chaos, I found a family. She laughed, a little broken. My mother would be horrified. Would she? She raised me to be safe. Predictable. To marry a nice man with a boring job and have boring babies. Phoebe leaned against him. Instead, I fell in love with a criminal and became mother to his daughters. You're not their mother. The words stung, even though they were true. I know. You're something else. Something they chose. That's better. She wanted to believe that. What happens if this never ends? If there's always another threat? Then we handle it. Together. He pulled her close. I can't promise you peace, Phoebe. Can't promise you normal. But I can promise you're not alone in this. They sat together in the dark, watching guards patrol, and Phoebe tried to imagine a future where she wasn't constantly afraid. Where loving Gunho didn't mean looking over her shoulder. where the twins could just be kids without security details and panic rooms. But maybe that future didn't exist. Maybe this was what love looked like in Gunho's world. Fierce and protective, and always a little bit dangerous. She could live with that. Had to live with that. Because walking away from him now would be like walking away from part of herself. 3 days later, Takashi found who sent the photos. A low-level associate from a rival family trying to make a name for himself by threatening Gunho's weakness. He was dealt with quietly, efficiently, in ways Phoebe didn't ask about. "It's done," Gunho told her. "We can go home." Just like that? Just like that. But going home meant returning to the same life, the same risks. The girls went back to school with increased security. Phoebe went back to the apartment with bodyguards she couldn't shake. And Gunho went back to his dangerous business, coming home late with that look in his eyes that said he'd done things she didn't want to know about. They were eating breakfast one morning when Mabel asked the question that changed everything. "Phoebe, are you going to be our new mom?" Coffee went everywhere. Phoebe grabbed napkins, flustered.
What? No. I mean,
"I'm your nanny. But you live with Daddy now. And you love us. And we love you." Mabel said it so logically. That's what moms do, right? "Your mom was a very special person who died." "We know." Ariella joined in. "But you're here. And you're not going anywhere. So can you be our mom instead?" Phoebe looked desperately at Gunho, who was trying not to smile. "A little help? They have a point. Not helping." He laughed. "Girls, Phoebe isn't replacing your mother. No one could. But she is family now. Important family. What we call her doesn't change that." "But I want to call her Mom," Ariella said stubbornly. "Then maybe you should ask her." Both girls turned to Phoebe with hope in their eyes. "Can we?" She felt tears coming and didn't fight them. "If that's what you want." They cheered and crashed into her, nearly knocking over more coffee. Over their heads, she met Gunho's eyes, and the love there almost undid her completely. "Looks like you're stuck with us," he said softly. "Looks like it," she agreed. That night, after the girls were asleep, Gunho found her on the balcony. He had something in his hand, a small box that made her heart race. "Before you panic," he said quickly, "it's not that. Not yet." "Then what is it?" He opened the box to reveal a simple silver bracelet with 3 charms. 2 small figures representing the twins, and one that looked like her. "I wanted you to have something," he explained. "Something that shows you're part of this family. Officially." Phoebe took the bracelet with shaking hands. "Gunho, this is. Too much? Not enough? Tell me." "Perfect. It's perfect." She let him fasten it around her wrist. "But you know this doesn't fix everything, right? There are still threats. Still danger." "I know. But we'll handle it. Like we've handled everything else." He pulled her close. Together. She leaned into him, feeling the solid warmth of his body, the steady beat of his heart. "I love you. I love you too. Even though you're bossy and stubborn and won't let me buy you nice things. Especially because of that." They stood together watching the city lights, and for the first time in months, Phoebe let herself believe in tomorrow. In next week. In next year. In a future with this complicated, dangerous, wonderful man and his daughters who'd stolen her heart. It wouldn't be easy. Probably wouldn't be safe. But it would be theirs. 6 months later, Phoebe woke up to an empty bed and voices in the kitchen. Not unusual. Gunho often got up early with the girls on weekends. What was unusual was the laughter, the kind that came from planning something. She found all 3 of them huddled around the counter, flour everywhere, attempting what looked like pancakes. Attempting being the key word. "This is a disaster," Mabel announced cheerfully. "Daddy can't cook," Ariella agreed, poking at the burnt lumps on the griddle. Gunho looked up and saw Phoebe in the doorway. Guilt flashed across his face. "You weren't supposed to be awake yet. Hard to sleep when you're missing." She crossed the kitchen, surveyed the damage. "What's the occasion?" "We're making you breakfast," Ariella said proudly. "I can see that." "Why?" The girls looked at their father, who suddenly seemed nervous. "Because today is special." Is it? It's been exactly 1 year since you started working for us, Mabel explained. We looked it up on the calendar. Phoebe's throat went tight. She'd forgotten. With everything that happened, the threats, the move upstairs, becoming an unofficial mother, she'd lost track of when it all started. A year, she said softly. A year of you being the best nanny ever, Ariella added. Not just nanny, Gunho corrected gently. The best everything. He was looking at her with an expression that made her stomach flutter, like he was about to say something important, like the burnt pancakes were part of something bigger. Girls, why don't you go set the table, he suggested. They ran off, giggling. Gunho turned to Phoebe, and she saw his hand go to his pocket. Don't, she said quickly. He froze. Don't what? Whatever you're about to do. Don't. You don't even know what I was going to do. I can guess. And we talked about this. Not yet. He pulled his hand out of his pocket, empty. I know. I remember. He ran a hand through his hair. A year, Phoebe. A year of watching you love my daughters. Love me. Transform our entire lives. That's not just me. It is, though. You walked into this apartment with your terrible Korean and your bright smile, and suddenly everything was different. Better. He took her hands. I know I promised to wait, to give you time, but I need you to know, whenever you're ready, I'm ready. Have been for months. She touched his face, feeling the morning stubble. I know, and I love you for waiting. But no buts. Just not yet. Let me get used to being mom first before I become wife. He smiled. Fair enough. They managed to salvage breakfast, eating burnt pancakes with too much syrup while the girls chattered about their plans for the day. Afterward, Gunho disappeared for a work call, leaving Phoebe to help clean up. He really loves you, Mabel said, drying dishes with unusual seriousness. I know. Like really, really loves you. The way he used to look at mom in pictures. Phoebe's hands stilled in the soapy water. Does that bother you?
No.
It makes me happy. Mabel handed her another plate. Because it means he's not sad anymore. And it means you'll stay. I'm staying regardless. Even if you don't marry him? Smart girl. Even then, I'm not going anywhere. Ariella appeared, dragging her favorite doll. Phoebe, can you help me fix her hair? Daddy tried, but he doesn't know how to braid. They spend the afternoon doing simple things. Braiding doll hair, reading books, playing board games that Gunho pretended not to let them win. Normal family things that felt revolutionary because they were theirs. That evening, Gunho's mother came for dinner. She brought gifts for the girls and a knowing look for Phoebe. You're glowing, Noel observed while the girls were distracted. Am I? Happiness looks good on you. She sipped her wine. My son does too. Phoebe felt her cheeks warm. Noel. I'm just saying. I've never seen him like this. Not even before. She paused. You've done something I didn't think was possible. You've made him believe in good things again. He did that himself. Did he? Or did you show him it was safe to try? Before Phoebe could answer, Gunho appeared, pulling her away for some fictional emergency in the kitchen. But there was no emergency, just him wanting to steal a quiet moment. My mother's not interrogating you, is she? He asked. No more than usual. She means well. I know. Phoebe leaned against the counter. She loves you. She loves you too. Keeps asking when I'm going to make it official. What do you tell her? That you're worth waiting for. He moved closer. And that when it happens, it'll be because we both want it. Not because of pressure or expectations. You're very patient. Only with you. He kissed her forehead. With everyone else, I'm still terrifying. She laughed. Good to know. The evening ended with Noel leaving and the girls being tucked into bed. Phoebe was heading to the bedroom when she heard Gunho in his office, voice raised in anger. She hesitated, then pushed the door open. He was on the phone, pacing, every line of his body tense. When he saw her, he held up a finger.
Wait.
I don't care what it costs, he was saying. Find them. Make an example. I want this ended. Tonight. He hung up and scrubbed a hand over his face. Phoebe stayed quiet, letting him gather himself. There's a situation, he finally said. I gathered. Someone's been skimming from one of my shipments. Small amounts at first, now bigger. And they're getting bold. He looked at her. I need to handle it. Handle it how? The usual way.
Publicly.
So no one else gets ideas. She knew what that meant. Violence, probably. Maybe worse. Do you have to go personally? It'd send a message if I do. And if something happens to you? It won't. You can't promise that. She crossed her arms. Last time you said that, you ended up in the hospital. This is different.
How?
Because I'm not going in blind. I have Takashi. I have a plan. I have everything under control. You had everything under control last time too. He closed the distance between them. Are you asking me not to go?
Was she?
She knew his work was dangerous. Knew he sometimes had to do terrible things to maintain control. Knew this was the life she'd signed up for. But knowing and accepting were different when faced with him walking into danger. I'm asking you to be careful, she said finally. To remember you have people waiting at home who need you. I know. He pulled her close. And I'll come back. I always do. Promise me. I promise. He left an hour later with Takashi and 3 other men. Phoebe tried to sleep but couldn't. She checked on the girls twice, made tea she didn't drink, paced the apartment until dawn. When Gunho finally came home at sunrise, she was on the couch pretending to read. He looked tired but unhurt, and relief made her weak. It's handled, was all he said. She didn't ask for details.
Didn't want them.
Just pulled him to bed and held him while he slept. Over the next few weeks, things settled again. No threats. No emergencies. Just normal life with its small dramas and bigger joys. Ariella lost her first tooth. Mabel won a school art contest. Gunho closed a legitimate business deal that made him grin like a kid. I'm going straight, he joked one night over dinner. Sure you are, Phoebe said, not believing him for a second. But he was trying. She could see it in the choices he made, the risks he avoided, the way he prioritized time at home. He was still dangerous, still involved in things she didn't want to know about. But he was also a father who attended school plays and a man who did dishes without being asked. I think he's getting soft, Takashi teased during one of his visits. I think he's getting smart, Phoebe corrected. Same thing in this business. She worried about that sometimes. About whether Gunho's softness made him vulnerable. Whether his love for her and the girls created weaknesses his enemies could exploit. Whether her presence in his life put him in more danger than before. But then she'd catch him reading bedtime stories with both girls curled against him, or teaching them to ride bikes in the park, or looking at her like she was the best thing that ever happened to him. And she'd stop worrying about what could go wrong and focus on what was right. One evening, Phoebe was helping Mabel with homework when the girl asked an unexpected question. Can we go visit where you're from? Phoebe looked up, surprised. Botswana?
Yeah.
You tell us stories about it, but we've never seen it. It's very far away. We've been to China. And Japan. And that weird place with all the beaches. Thailand, Phoebe corrected, smiling. So can we go? I want to see your mother's garden. And the place you grew up. The request caught her off guard. She hadn't been home in over 2 years. Hadn't talked to her father since their fight. Hadn't seen her siblings or friends. Going back felt complicated in ways she couldn't explain. I'll think about it, she promised. That night, she mentioned it to Gunho. The girls want to visit Botswana. Then let's go. Just like that. Why not? I can work from anywhere. The girls could use a vacation. And you should see your family. My family doesn't know about you. About any of this. Then maybe it's time they did. He pulled her closer. Unless you're ashamed of me. That's not it. Then what? She struggled to put it into words. My father wanted me to be a translator. Safe. Respectable. Instead, I'm living with a man I'm not married to, raising his children. Involved in a life he would never understand. Are you happy? Yes. Then that should be enough. Should be. But it's not that simple. It could be, if you let it. He kissed her temple. But I won't push.
Just think about it.
For the girls.
She did think about it.
For weeks. Until finally, she called her sister. Phoebe? Oh my God. Where have you been? Soul.
Still.
I need to talk to you about something. She explained. Not everything, but enough. About Gunho. About the girls. About becoming someone she never expected to be. Her sister listened without interrupting. So, you're basically a mother now, her sister said finally. I guess. And you love him? Yes. Does he love you? Yes. Then what's the problem? Dad. We'll get over it. Or he won't. But you can't live your life for him, Phoebe. You tried that. It made you miserable. But nothing. You're happy. For the first time since Mom died, you sound actually happy. So bring your dangerous boyfriend and his daughters home. Let us meet them. Let Dad see what you've built. And if he refuses? Then that's his loss. Her sister's voice softened. But I don't think he will. He's gotten older.
Softer.
I think he might surprise you. So 2 months later, they flew to Botswana. Gunho hired private security despite Phoebe's protests. The girls were vibrating with excitement. And Phoebe was terrified. Her family home looked smaller than she remembered. Her father older. But when he opened the door and saw her, something in his face cracked. Phoebe. Hi, Dad. He pulled her into a hug that smelled like tobacco and old books. When he pulled back, he saw Gunho and the girls hovering behind her. So this is your life now, he said. Yes. He studied Gunho with sharp eyes. You take care of my daughter? I try to, sir. And these are your children? Yes, sir. Her father crouched down to the girl's level. Your names? I'm Mabel. That's Ariella. Nice to meet you both. I'm Phoebe's father. You can call me. He paused. Actually, I don't know. What do you call me? Ariella tugged on his sleeve. Can we call you Grandpa? Something flickered across her father's face.
Surprise.
Then something that looked like joy. I'd like that very much. And just like that, the fear dissolved. Her father welcomed them in. Her sisters descended with questions and laughter. Her family absorbed Gunho, and the girls like they'd always been part of the story. That night, while Gunho put the exhausted twins to bed, Phoebe sat with her father on the porch. He's dangerous, her father said without preamble. I know. You could do better. Safer. Maybe. But I don't want to. He sipped his tea. Your mother would have liked him. Phoebe's breath caught. Really? She always said you needed someone strong enough to handle you. Someone who wouldn't try to cage you. He smiled slightly. I think she'd approve. Even if I'm not sure I do. Dad. But you're happy. And those girls, they look at you like you hung the moon. That matters more than my approval. She leaned against his shoulder like she used to as a child. I miss her.
Me too.
Every day. He patted her hand. But she'd be proud of you. Building a life on your terms. Loving people who need you. That's what she always wanted for you. They spent a week in Botswana. The girls fell in love with the landscape, with Phoebe's family, with stories about their mother they'd never heard before. Gunho relaxed in ways she rarely saw, even playing football with her nephews despite being terrible at it. This is nice, he said one evening as they watched sunset. Peaceful. Different. Good, different. He pulled her close. Thank you for bringing us here. Thank you for making me brave enough to come back. On their last day, her father pulled Gunho aside. Phoebe watched from a distance, nervous. When they finished talking, Gunho looked shell-shocked. What did he say? She asked later. That if I hurt you, he has 6 brothers and 12 cousins who will make my life very difficult. That's it. And that I should marry you before you come to your senses. She laughed. He said that. In slightly more polite terms. But yes. Gunho touched her face. He also gave his blessing. If I want it. Do you? Want his blessing? Or want to marry you? Both. Yes to both. He kissed her softly. But I'm still waiting for you to be ready. What if I am ready? He went very still. Are you? She thought about the past year. About every scary moment and every perfect one. About the girls calling her mom and Gunho calling her his. About building a life that was messy and complicated and absolutely theirs. Ask me again, she said. When we get home. His smile was brilliant. I will. They flew back to Seoul with promises to return soon. The girls fell asleep on the plane, and Gunho held Phoebe's hand the entire flight. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For staying. For choosing this. For choosing us. You make it sound like a sacrifice. Isn't it? You could have had something easier. Maybe. But easier doesn't mean better. She squeezed his hand. This is exactly where I want to be. A week after they returned from Botswana, Phoebe woke up to find Gunho already gone. Not unusual, except for the note on his pillow. Roof.
Now.
Wear something warm. She found jeans and a sweater, checked on the still sleeping girls, and took the elevator to the building's rooftop. When the doors opened, she gasped. The entire roof was covered in flowers. Real flowers, like the wildflowers he'd brought her months ago. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, arranged in a path that led to where Gunho stood, wearing a suit and looking nervous. What is this? She asked, stepping out. You said ask you again when we got home. Her heart started racing. Gunho. Let me do this right. He reached for her hand, pulled her along the flower path. A year ago, you walked into my life and changed everything. You made my daughters laugh again. You made me remember what it felt like to be human. You took every broken piece of our family and somehow made us whole. I didn't do that alone.
Please.
Let me finish before I lose my nerve. She nodded, blinking back tears. I know my life is complicated. I know I come with baggage and danger and a past I can't erase. I know asking you to be part of this permanently is asking a lot. He stopped walking, turned to face her. But I'm asking anyway. Because I love you. Because my daughters love you. Because I can't imagine our future without you in it.
He pulled out a small box.
Not the one from before. A new one. Opened it to reveal a simple ring with 3 stones. One for each of us, he explained. The girls and me. The family you chose. Phoebe couldn't speak. Could barely breathe. Marry me, Gunho said. Not because it's expected. Not because of the girls. But because you want to. Because you love us as much as we love you. Because this messy, complicated, beautiful life is one you want to keep building with us.